Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Sweden for EU4 1.32 origins. So Sweden is a nation located in Northern Europe. We start off as a personal union subject of Denmark right here, who also has two more subjects, Norway, who's also a junior partner, and Holstein, who's a vassal. Sweden is one of the most interesting nations in EU4 in my opinion, a nation that becomes a great power historically during the mid-game of EU4 around the 1600s, but by using this guide, you will be becoming a great power much earlier than that. Of course, the start isn't that easy. We do need to break free from Denmark, and we are pretty poor at the start, so we will need to buff up our economy pretty rapidly. Sweden also has an amazing national idea set, one of the most powerful in the game, Merc Maintenance plus 20% infantry combat ability. Land Leader Shock, that's awesome, one of the strongest ideas in the game right here, which gives us +1 possible policies, so we can actually have 4 of each policies instead of 3. That's super strong. 5% discipline, manpower recovery speed, goods produced, and national manpower plus 20%, an all-around amazing national idea set, and you will be recruiting Swedish Space Marines in no time and having literally the most powerful army of any nation in the game. And before we begin, if you enjoy this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Sweden. So first off, of course, we do want to find someone to support our independence, and it varies which nations will support you. It can be Scotland, England, Lithuania, Poland too after they get the PU over Lithuania, and in my case, England and Scotland will support me, so those are the nations that I will ask. You can of course break free by yourself as well. You don't really need any allies, but they will be helpful, and like I said, it'll vary which nations you can get to support you. But basically, ask anyone that will support you to support you. I'm gonna ask England and Scotland as well. You may have gotten different ones in your case, but England is the guy that will support you 99% of the time. Next, we're gonna go into our estates and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Another thing that's interesting about Sweden is we do start off with 26% crown land, so first we are gonna seize land. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state and religious diplomats. We're gonna give the nobility primacy of the nobility and increase levies, and then we're gonna give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the burghers. And then we're gonna sell titles. We do have 0 crown land, but we'll be conquering land soon and we'll get it back up. Next, it's time to prepare for our independence war. So we're gonna take this army right here, destroy 1 cavalry regiment, and hire an infantry regiment. And we're also gonna start building some boats, galleys to be exact. So start building galleys in all of your provinces, 1 in each. Next, we're also gonna start spying on Denmark, and once these diplomats over here are back, we're gonna start improving relations with the nations that have supported our independence, in my case, England and Scotland. Now, it's time to wait for these rebels from Gotland here to get over here. Then, Denmark is gonna fight those rebels. Noble rebels might also pop up, which Denmark is also gonna fight, that will significantly weaken Denmark's army and lower their manpower. And then, Denmark is gonna go down to siege back Gotland from these pretender rebels, and that is the moment where we're gonna strike. So, we're waiting for that. During this time, you can turn off these 2 forts. And you can take your army down here. And there we go, that has happened in my case, so the rebels went here, Denmark fought them, and now Denmark has taken their army to siege back Gotland. Now is the time where we strike, and by this point all of your ships should have finished building. So you are gonna take all your ships and put them right here in the Western Baltic Sea. And we're also gonna be hiring the Free Company. We're gonna put them right here. And now that everything is in place, so we have our fleet in the Western Baltic Sea, our big army in this province, and our Free Company in this province, it is time to declare. You will want to check to see if it's the first of a month, because Denmark and sometimes Norway, they mothball their forts. So let's see, in my case, Denmark has mothballed a Lund here, which means we can snipe it and basically siege it down with just 1 tick, and Norway, well, they've maintained theirs in my case, but in your case they may have mothballed it. Either way, by this point you will be ready to take the mission built to force limit, and you can also check in the meantime if someone else has decided to support you as well. In my case, that hasn't happened. But now it's time to hire an admiral for the fleet. There we go. Hire a general for this army down here. and we'll give a ruler military command of the Free Company once we're independent. So it's time to declare our independence war on Denmark. Of course, first we will hire a morale or a discipline level 1 advisor if you have one. I do have a discipline guy in my case. And I'm also gonna raise my forts that were down over here, and it's time to declare. With the independence CB, of course, usually Denmark won't have any strong allies. In my case, they've only allied Friesland. And there we go, that's the independence war started. Now we can give a ruler military command of this army right here, put him in charge, and take him to Trondelag, and we'll take the main army down here to snipe the fort in Lund. With your high galley numbers over here, you should be able to stop Denmark from leaving Gotland. And if you have England supporting you, they should help out with their navy as well. Before stabbing up, check to see if you have a stab cost guy. I do have one in my case. He is only a level 2, but it is what it is. I am gonna hire him, stab up, and then I'm simply gonna fire him once 1 month passes. So now it's time to simply siege down Norway and at least this portion of Denmark and wait for England or Scotland or whoever's helping you to come around and will help you. England, usually they do take their armies over to Denmark. And there we go, just like that, we've gotten Lund in 1 month thick. Now I'm gonna split this army and siege these provinces over here, and then with this army as well, I'm gonna go and fight Norway. Alternatively, you could leave this army here to prevent Denmark from building more troops over here and taking them across to Lund. At this point, you should also start spying on the Teutonic Order and the Livonian Order as well, along with Novgorod. And once you've sieged down all of Norway and this part of Denmark and this part of Denmark as well, you could even siege down Copenhagen, or you could even build up transports and try and go to Gotland to take it. It is a fort, so we can't demand it without occupying it. We are ready to peace out. And here's what you're gonna take in this peace deal. Of course, first we're gonna demand grant independence, so we're free and now we can do other stuff. If you've occupied Gotland, then you should take it. In my case, I haven't occupied it, I don't have enough transports, so I won't be taking it. But if you're not taking Gotland, you should take the province of Bleking down here. So either Gotland or this one, depending on what you can get. We're also gonna get this province over here from Norway, and this province up here from Norway as well. We're gonna demand war reps, and we're gonna take as much money as we can. So this is the peace deal. These 3 provinces, or these 3 provinces, money, war reps, and independence. We don't want to take too much from these guys in the first war, since we're going to be fighting other nations as well. And that's our first war done. Now we're independent. We can also take this mission right here. We gain some permaclaims on areas over here, and you can even find some other allies. In the meantime, I've royal married Poland, and I will be able to ally them. They're a pretty good ally to have early on, at least until we expand into them. I've also made a claim on Never right here and Reval too, and now that I have a sea border with the Teutons, I can also claim Danzig. If you got Gotland, you could also claim Königsberg and Memel and these 2 provinces as well. But since I got this, I can only claim Danzig. After this war, you will be able to select rivals as well, and the Livonians, Novgorod, and the Teutons are pretty good rivals to select, since we're going to be fighting one of those 3 nations first. If everything went according to plan, your war versus Denmark should have finished before Poland's truce with the Teutons runs out in December 1449, or at least you'll be close to it. And by this point I have allied Poland. You should be able to ally Poland pretty easily. If you're not, it's not a big deal, but it is a good alliance to get, and we'll be waiting for their truce with the Teutons to expire so we can declare on them first. So out of these 3 nations, ideally you would fight the Teutons first, but if you can't, that's okay. I'm gonna show you what to take from the Livonians and Novgorod once we fight them as well. At this point, Muscovy is probably fighting Novgorod, and they'll have a truce with them, so it'll be easy pickings for us later. Once you're about 6 months away from the Polish Teuton truce ending, it is time to start getting ready for the war versus the Teutons. So I will raise maintenance on my armies and navies and activate the forts, and I'll ask for military access through Wolgast here and through Poland as well. There we go, we have access through these guys, and it's time to take our armies down here. Since I can't ferry my free company over, I'm just gonna send them over here to Viborg and we can walk around. And once your army is here, it is time to declare on the Teutonic Order. Of course, we are gonna call in Poland with the promise of land, and it's totally fine if you give Poland land. The things we are interested in are the provinces of Danzig, Königsberg, and Memel, because those are the provinces which give us the most trade power. So even if you only take these 3 for yourself and give everything else to Poland, it's totally fine. And it's also fine if you can't take all 3. Try to get at least 1. Danzig is the most important one, but if you can get Königsberg or Memel too, it's totally fine. So it's time to declare for the conquest of Danzig, call in Poland with the promise of land. Also, I forgot to say, make sure you set those 3 provinces as provinces of vital interest before the war starts. You're probably also going to be fighting the Livonians in this war as well. They ally the Teutons pretty often. Just white peace them, so we can fight them soon as well. And now that the war is over, I will be piecing out the Teutonic Order. Like I said, the most important provinces we need, pretty much the only ones we need, are Danzig, Königsberg, and Memel. You can totally give the rest of this to Poland. Of course, you will be taking it back later, but I'm gonna give, let's see right here, these 3 provinces to Poland, so they're not mad. As you can see, they're mad if I don't give them more. They did participate quite enough, and it's totally fine if you give the rest of it to them. We'll be getting it later. Don't take too much from the Teutons. You don't want too much aggressive expansion, since we're going to be fighting other Catholics pretty soon too. So we can just do something like this in my case, and I'll take the rest of these provinces later for myself, and I'll also get all of the Teutons' money. And that's our first war with the Teutons done. The most important provinces, I've taken all of them. You may have only taken one. It's still fine. Now it's time to chill a bit and get ready for our next wars. At this point, you can also totally delete these 2 forts over here. We don't need them. And once you've wrapped up your war with the Teutons, it is probably time to declare on Novgorod. Now, of course, Novgorod will look different for each of us, depending on what Muscovy took. This is what they look like in my case. This is what Muscovy took. Too bad that they took the actual province of Novgorod, because it is something we want, but it's fine. We'll be declaring on them and taking as much as we can. I've been spying on them. This is what I have claims on so far, and now I'll just simply declare on them for the conquest of Neva. They shouldn't have any allies or any strong allies at all. In my case, they're only allied to Odoyev down here. And now that I've beaten up Novgorod, here's what I'm gonna take from them. Now in your case, since they might be bigger and you might not be able to take everything you want from them, I recommend doing something like this to prevent Muscovy from further expanding into them. Of course, that's assuming you can't take all of this up here. Now since this province over here is disconnected, I obviously can't take it, but what you want to focus on mainly is Neva and Novgorod. I can't get Novgorod, but I can get everything else. So I will be almost full annexing Novgorod, with the exception of the province I can't take. Don't worry about aggressive expansion here, since they're an Orthodox nation, and we won't be fighting Muscovy very soon, so there really is no one here to get mad. But take as much as you can, focusing on Neva and Novgorod, and preventing Muscovy from further expanding into them. And I'm also going to take all their money. And that's our war with Novgorod done. You should have taken as much as you can. Now that we've wrapped up our initial 3 wars, the Independence War, the Teuton War, and the Novgorod War, it's time to chill until we can fight Denmark again. In my case, it's about 5 years. At this point, you can give the clergy clerical advisory council, you can give the nobility aristocratic councilors, and you can give the burghers commercial advisory board. Now, since we did conquer Orthodox provinces here, and we're going to be conquering some more later, I do recommend assigning provinces in Novgorod and the White Sea to trade companies, at least for now in the early game, until we either get religious or humanist or something like that to help us deal with all this religious disunity. Of course, you can't trade company everything in these trade nodes, since not all of their provinces are in Eastern Europe, where our capital isn't, which means we can trade company everything in Eastern Europe. Pretty much we only can't trade company these 2 provinces up here, which is fine since they're not even Orthodox. So just add all eligible provinces to trade companies in Novgorod and the White Sea, at least for now. That'll definitely help us with our religious unity. For your tier 2 government reform, you should of course take strength and noble privileges. Once your truce with Denmark and Norway has expired, it is time to declare on them again and get some more stuff from them. So simply declare a reconquest on Gotland if you haven't taken it, or if you have taken it, declare a regular conquest for Lund right here. And of course you can call in some of your allies to help you. At this point, Denmark, they still shouldn't have any strong allies. For your naval doctrine, I recommend selecting either Merchant Navy to help you out make even more money in the Baltic Sea and the Lubeck trade nodes, or Free Oarsman for that galley combat ability so you can dominate the Baltic Sea and even these sea tiles right here. Or if you never want to build ships again, of course you can go with shipboarding. In my case, I'm personally gonna go with Free Oarsman. At least until we beat Denmark and we're the dominant power in the Baltic. Then I might swap to Merchant Navy. And once you've beaten up Denmark and Norway enough in the second war, here's what you're gonna take from them. You're of course gonna take the province of Gotland if you haven't taken it in the earlier war, like me, and you're gonna take the rest of these provinces down here, which we do have claims on. And I also recommend taking these 2 provinces from Norway, this one right here, which has a fort and has center of trade as well. So Gotland if you haven't taken it, everything down here in Scania, and these 2 over here. You should get about 50 aggressive expansion from this, which is enough for now. And of course we're also going to take war ups from them and all their money. And that's our second war with Denmark and Norway done. After this point, you will be able to take the mission Conquer Scania. Sure, we could go a lot faster in conquering these guys, but there's really no need. Why not minimize our aggressive expansion with the other Catholic guys, since we're gonna get claims on everything over here from our missions anyway. Now it's time to chill for just a bit, and then fight our second war versus the Teutons, or maybe our first one versus the Livonians or Riga. Of course, once you take Gotland, you can totally delete the fort there. I'm also gonna delete this one in Trondelag up here too. If you just got looned and Denmark hasn't deleted the fort, in my case they had deleted it, you should delete that one too. Once you've chilled a bit, it is time for your next war versus some of the Baltic nations. You could declare on the Teutons to finish them off, or you could declare on the Livonians, or you could declare on Riga, which is actually the province we want the most. Now, fighting Riga is super annoying since you will have to fight all of the guys that are in their trade league, so I don't recommend actually fighting them directly. I recommend just simply annexing them when you fight the Livonians. Even if you declare specifically on the Livonians, you can simply not take anything from them and just take Riga if you're worried about aggressive expansion or coring costs or something like that. In my case, I am going to declare for Reval right here and call in Brandenburg as well. Now, you're probably going to be fighting the Teutons again, since they'll still be allied to the Livonians, and if you called in Poland in this war, that's great, because that'll generate a truce for Poland with the Teutons as well, which means they're safe from being eaten up by Poland, and we can just take these lands that are left here in another war. But in my case, since Poland isn't in my war here, the Polish ruler was cruel, he didn't want to join, I am going to white peace the Teutons, and I know that they're probably going to get eaten up by Poland, which is totally fine, since I already have the 3 center of trade provinces I want. We'll be getting these provinces later from Poland. And when you finish off the Livonians and Riga, there's a 99% chance you'll be fighting both of them. You guys know that they always ally each other. If you don't want to take Riga without co-belligerenting the Livonians, you can just do something like this to block them off from being taken by someone else and basically take as much as you can. You are going to be able to full annex them if you're not taking Riga. But since I am taking Riga, I'm going to do something like this in my case. And I'll take the rest of these provinces in a later war. And just like that, by fighting everyone around us, we have managed to take over all centers of trade in the Baltic Sea trade node, which is super powerful. After this point, you shouldn't have any problems with income. I do still have some loans, but they're just burger loans, and they're totally fine. Now, since we have a truce with pretty much all the easy nations that we can fight, it is time to chill for a couple of years and build up our economy, build some marketplaces, build some workshops, some churches, whatever you want. For your first idea group, as Sweden, I recommend taking quality ideas. This will lean into the fact that we're going to be making Swedish Space Marines even more infantry combat ability, cav combat, morale of navies, and all the ship stuff is awesome too. We do want to have a very strong navy as Sweden, artillery combat, discipline, all around an awesome idea group as Sweden that leans into what we're already strong in to make it even more stronger. Of course, you will probably be getting your first idea group a bit later if you're like me, since we've been conquering a lot, using up a lot of admin points, and it didn't help the fact that I had a 2-2-1 starting ruler, which was pretty bad, but it's just RNG, and when you declare your independence war versus Denmark, you can even get a 6-6-6, but you could also get a 2-2-1 like me. Luckily, he died, and I have this Queen Regent right now. Of course, you're already focusing on mill since the start. And like I said, due to the immense trade power we're gonna get from the Baltic Sea trade node, and because we're in a period of relaxing right now, I'm making 5.6 ducats a month, which is really good. If I turn down army maintenance and fleet maintenance and turn off all the forts, I do still have quite a few over here in the eastern side of my nation, then we're making 11 ducats a month, which is pretty strong. A big difference from our start in 1444. Looks like Austria got a little coalition in my game here. Pretty rare to see, but it definitely is fun. Now, if something like this happens in your game as well, it is definitely very rare to see something like this, but it leads me to another thing as well. If Austria is having trouble with things like this, maybe trouble with the Ottomans or something like that, maybe even trouble with France over Burgundy, and maybe if someone else has gotten the Holy Roman Throne, then you can totally start spying on these guys up here that are in the HRE and declare on an HRE member as well. In my case, as we can see here, if I declare on Wolgast, Austria wouldn't defend them, which is a huge bonus. It's like they're not even in the HRE. Well, except for the aggressive expansion. But if the emperor isn't willing to join, or if there's a weak emperor, you can totally start pushing into the HRE as well. I'm not gonna do it here in my case in my guide, since it will be unrealistic for most of you guys. For your tier 3 government reform, you should of course select centralized bureaucracy. After you finish up your first and second wars with all of these guys here is when your might really starts. At this point, we're almost on the Great Powers list. In fact, I was, but I dropped back because England's been doing some conquering, and this is where your real economic power will start to emerge. At this point, I'm making 13 ducats a month with armies up. If I lower army maintenance, it's 15, which is super strong like I showed you guys earlier, and I've been building a ton of buildings during this time. I've built marketplaces in all of the center of trade provinces, well, almost all I think. And I've also been building a bunch of production buildings in all the high value trade good provinces. By buffing up our economy now, and by getting even more manpower from our national ideas later down the line, we'll become a superpower. Basically, when you're not at war, you're buffing up your economy. Since my truce with the Teutons is up, and they're still alive in this one province, I will be declaring on them. I'll probably also take all provinces from the Livonians too. Basically, at this point, we're finishing off the Livonians, the Teutons, and Riga, after we've already fought our initial wars versus them. And after this, we'll fight our third war versus Denmark. I did have a transfer trade power with the Teutons, so I had to cancel that real quick. But now I'll be declaring. Austria are actually fighting two separate coalition wars, so that's pretty funny to see. They're definitely not having a very good time. And now that I've finished off what's remaining of the Livonians and the Teutons, I will be full annexing both of them. And by this point, you may have all of their original lands, including these lands right here, or you may have a little something like me, or even a little less. It's all fine, as long as you focus the most on the centers of trade. After you conquer all of these Livonian lands right here, you will be able to unlock the mission Conquer Livonia, which will give you claims on these areas right here. And of course, once your truce with Denmark is up, it is time to declare your third war against them. I'm declaring on Denmark directly because that way England would help me out, and I do need their help to deal with some annoying allies, whereas if I declare on Norway, the nation we actually have claims on, my allies wouldn't come in. So that's why I'm declaring on Denmark here for the conquest of this province, and I'm gonna call in England and Brandenburg. Why not? Now, once you finish up this war, you have a couple of options. You could either vassalize Norway yourself using the transfer subject peace treaty at half cost. Of course, if that's what you plan to do, you should take this as your first age ability, but if you don't plan on vassalizing Norway, you should take justified wars. The reason you might want to vassalize Norway is because, as we all know, they will eventually colonize. Now, once they get 5 provinces, which they usually colonize in Canada, a colonial nation will form Vinland, and after that you can totally annex Norway and have your own colonial nation, which you can then grow. However, if you don't care about colonial stuff at all, then you can just conquer Norway regularly. Since I don't care about colonial stuff, I will be conquering Norway, so I won't be taking this one first. I'll be taking justified wars, but if you do care about colonial stuff, vassalize Norway. For your second idea group as Sweden, I recommend taking economic ideas. This will buff up our economy even more, enabling us to become an even more powerful nation, and it also gives us a great policy that we have with quality for plus 5% more discipline. And of course, later down the line, when we're going to be taking quantity and stuff like that, we'll also get force limit, more dev discounts, and everything else. You could also alternatively take innovative ideas. They're not as powerful as they were, of course. The advisor stuff is great, the innovativeness gain. We will be generating a ton more monarch points with cheaper tech and cheaper institutions as well. And it also has an excellent policy with quality ideas for 10% more infantry combat ability, which will bring us up to 40 total. It's at 30 right now, but I do recommend economic either way. At this point, you can start focusing on admin. And once you've wrapped up this war versus Denmark, like I said, you could make Norway a vassal with the transfer subject at half cost peace treaty. It's 101 right now because I don't have it, but if I did have it, it would only be 50% war score, so you can take Norway as a vassal, let them colonize Vinland, and then you can integrate them. But if not, I recommend taking provinces from Norway, which are in the Lubeck trade node, these 4 right here. I'm also going to take this one up here to connect my lands, why not? And then you can take something else from Denmark that's also in the Lubeck trade node. I have claims on these provinces right here, so I could take their capital of Copenhagen, or maybe something like this over here, although that would be a bit too much aggressive expansion. And even though this isn't a real coalition right here in my case, it will still slow me down in doing other stuff. So I'm just gonna take their capital of Copenhagen and leave Denmark with this and Norway with this over here. I'm also gonna take all their money. And that's my third war versus Denmark done. And by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Sweden and got some people to support our independence. Like I said, it's usually England, sometimes Lithuania, sometimes you can get other guys too. And we broke free from Denmark, taking a few provinces, mainly either this one or this one, to help us get claims on the Teutons. After that, you should have started spying on the Livonians and Teutons, fought the Teutons in your first war, and gotten at least one or all three out of these provinces right here to increase our trade in the Baltic. After that, your second war should have been versus Novgorod after they were demolished by Muscovy, and you should have taken as much as you can from Novgorod while also blocking off Muscovy from taking the rest of them if you couldn't take as much as me. And after that, we continue expanding in the same three regions that we were expanding in, basically Norway and Denmark, these Baltic guys over here, and Novgorod as well. And by this point, you should have wrapped up the Livonians, Teutons, and Riga. You should have wrapped up Novgorod, and you'll have one more war versus Denmark and Norway to finish them off. And in your case, you may have gotten Norway as a vassal if you wanted them to colonize. Like I said, I don't care about that, so I just took land from them, and you should be looking a little something like this. By this point, we completely dominate trade in the Baltic Sea, and we're about to dominate it in Novgorod and Lubeck as well. During the times of peace, especially after these final wars in these final 5 or 10 years, I have been building up my economy massively, and it is something you should have been doing as well. As you can see, I've bumped up all my centers of trade to level 2, and I have been building buildings in all of them. My economy right now is really good. I'm making 20 ducats a month, and if I lower army maintenance and turn off forts, and if I stop drilling, of course, I am making 26 ducats a month, which is super strong. I do also have 10 light ships protecting trade in the Baltic Sea and 10 more protecting trade in Lubeck, and I'm transferring from Novgorod to the Baltic Sea and also collecting in Lubeck. Later down the line, when you get a bigger foothold in Lubeck, you will want to move your main trade node to Lubeck, and if you plan on expanding this way as well, you will be eventually moving it to the English Channel. I also have been building lots of buildings. That is something you should have been doing too. Like I said, in the first 15-ish years, you will struggle with your economy and you will have some loans, but after that, it's easy sailing. Of course, don't forget to decrease autonomy as much as you can. I have pretty much zero autonomy in almost the entirety of my country, with the exception of provinces that I took the latest, of course, where autonomy is gonna be slightly higher, but I have been decreasing it the entire time. I have been fighting lots of particularists and nobles because of that. As we can see right here, actually I don't have any more, but I am about to get some Norwegian guys, and that of course helps us with our army tradition as well. Army tradition is pretty high, 48 actually, so it was even higher. I had it around 70 earlier, but it has decreased, of course. And these are the buildings that I've been building and that you should have been building as well. I got marketplaces in all the center of trade and estuary provinces. I got a bunch of workshops in all the high value trade good provinces. I got some churches too, some army buildings as well, and that'll help out our economy massively. I've also been deleting forts over here. You should delete them as well. You don't really need them. After you take down Muscovy later, you can delete forts over here too. It's really not a problem. By this point, I do have a pretty sizable army. It is 24-4, a very good composition. I should be building cannons right about now since I did just get Miltech 7, so I will start constructing cannons pretty soon. I'll build up around 7 of them. I will still keep this free company, and I will still keep using mercenaries, at least until we get this idea here, the Union and Security Act, which gives us even more manpower. That's why I'm not really struggling with manpower, but I did wish I have more right now. We did, after all, open up with quality ideas, which gives us 30% infantry combat ability right now, 10% cav, 10% artillery, and we have 15% galley combat ability from the naval doctrine as well. Speaking of idea groups, like I said, we did open up with quality ideas. For your second idea group, you should have taken economic ideas. Alternatively, you could have taken innovative. For your third idea group, I recommend taking quantity to build up even more massive armies and help out with some awesome policies with the other idea groups we're gonna take. For your fourth idea group, you should take innovative or economic, whichever one you didn't take for your third one, mainly for the mill stuff, also for the monarch point generation and tech discount. Sure, innovative isn't as strong as it used to be, although I still recommend it. If you still think innovative sucks, I recommend taking trade for your fourth idea group. And after that, you should go down all of the mill idea groups after quantity, defensive, offensive, even aristo if you want to, or aristo and offensive without defensive. It's up to you. And then you can take trade, admin, humanist, religious, whatever you want. Humanist or religious will help you out in conquering these lands, but like I said, if you don't want to bother with religious and humanist, you can just trade company everything over here, pretty much everything that's in Eastern Europe and is Orthodox. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking meritocratic recruitment, although you could take administrative clergy later down the line for a +1 admin free policy, so you'll be paying for just 2 instead of 3. For your tier 5 government reform, I recommend taking general estates, then swapping to royal decree when absolute absolutism comes around, but if you max out at more than 100 absolutism, you can swap back to general estates. For tier 6, you should take l'état c'est moi, and for tier 7, you should take political absolutism. However, once again, if you max out over 100 absolutism, you should swap to legislative houses for a +1 admin possible policy, which means you have 5 admin policies instead of the regular 3. This is one of the most powerful things as Sweden, the +1 possible policy in each category. Sweden, of course, doesn't have a very good mission tree. I hope they get one soon, but you won't really be following along your missions. They're not anything special. But after this point, you will continue to expand in the same regions you've already been expanding in. We'll finish off Norway and Denmark, finish off these guys if you haven't, and after that, our main first big rival is gonna be Muscovy, which you are gonna fight with the help of Poland and Lithuania. If they don't want to help you out, eventually you will become strong enough to take them on yourself. By blocking them off from the Baltic here as much as you can, you may even have this province in your case. That's gonna weaken them severely, and you're gonna gobble them up as soon as possible. After that, you're ready to take on Poland and Lithuania. You're ready to expand in the British Isles after taking some provinces over here from Norway. And if you find yourself in a situation like me where Austria had to fight 2 coalitions at the same time, or if Austria isn't willing to join, or if someone else is the emperor and they're weak, you can totally start pushing into the HRE as well. Like I said, I could have done that earlier when Austria had 2 coalitions versus them, but I felt like that would be unrealistic for this guide since it wouldn't happen for most of you guys. But you will continue to expand in Muscovy, in Poland, Lithuania, the British Isles, and the Northern HRE. Basically, we want to dominate the entirety of Northern Europe and maybe even everything else later on. By taking all of these idea groups that we took and with our national ideas as well, you will have the most powerful army in the world, even better than Prussia. I have to say, I do think Sweden's army can be better than Prussia. So much combat ability, so much morale, so much discipline, and we're gonna have a massive, massive army with quantity as well. When the Protestant Reformation comes around, you could stay Catholic since Catholic is super strong since origins. If you have good relations with the Pope, I do recommend trying to ally the Pope if you can. I can't because they're rival to Savoy, but it's totally cool to go Protestant as Sweden as well. Protestant is super strong for Sweden too. So if you have good relations with the Pope, you can stay Catholic, but you could also go Protestant. It really is up to you. I personally have no preference. I might stay Catholic, I might go Protestant, I still don't know. Of course, if you're going for Lion of the North achievement where you need to win being the leader of the Protestant League, of course you are going to want to go Protestant. And a little tip for that achievement, as soon as the Protestant Leagues form, basically when an elector becomes Protestant or Reformed, and after a certain date, I think it's 1580, as soon as the religious leagues form, you're going to want to join the Protestant side and immediately declare on the emperor before any more nations have a chance to join on the emperor's side. So the sooner you declare that war, the better and the easier it will be for you. And like I said, by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Sweden from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel where right now there's an Austria World Conquest 1 Faith going on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.